Hi guys, welcome to Make 2. This is a review of the LEGO Ghostbusters Ecto-1, in case you couldn't guess. It's set number 21108, and it came with 508 pieces, was released in 2014, is still available at the time of this video in early 2015. It was released as part of the LEGO Ideas, formerly Kuzo series. This was a fan-inspired, a sort of LEGO fan-inspired set that was then turned into an official set. As you can see, you have the car and you have the minifigs. So first, let's take a look at the car and then we'll come back to the minifigs on this wonderful stand. So here we have the Ecto-1. I've mounted it a little bit above the table just so you can get a good sense of it. I'm just going to give a slow spin so you can see it from all angles. Now I think this is actually, given the scale and given the limitations of LEGO, a remarkably accurate version of the Ecto-1, the kind of Hearst-like emergency vehicle that the Ghostbusters use in the first movie. It's different in the second. And the first movie was released in 1984, so this being released in 2014, 30 years after, celebrated the 30th anniversary. You can see here the Ghostbusters symbol. That's a printed piece, the same on the back here, along with the printed version of the number plate. Now all along the sides, there's all studs on the side, so there's a lot of bracket pieces all along the base and then flipped up obviously, so studs built out. So all of these side panels are built out, and that allows you to get both the curve of the car. The original version is actually very curvier than they've been able to get in LEGO, but still they've done a good job. Ultimately at the back here you can have these variant slopes for this red fin coming out all the way to the back with this arch and then this light at the back. And you can just carry on those lines down as well. Both sides of this are identical for the side paneling. The windows too, actually they've got big windscreen and these three side windows on each side and then the window at the back. Again, the same as in the actual movie. Let's take a look at the front here, just try and get you a closer shot. This is a well-done grille. They've tried, as you can see, with these 2x2 ones with a sort of semicircle at the front and then a stud upside down on top just to get a sense of that downward slope. I think that works well. It's clearly a slight conceit, but I think they've managed to pull it off. Again, you've got the printed number plate at the bottom. A lot of silver pieces used throughout, these silver grills, these silver cylinders, silver slopes. Personally, I think that this front grille, as you can see, it's all quite flat and outward facing, all kind of on a level. I think ideally this would have been built slightly back to give a sense of the curve, so maybe 2 silver studs as opposed to equivalent of 3 with this cylinder piece. I think that might have just given a slight roundedness as they've got on top to the rest of the front. It's got this antenna at the side, and I think in the movie it's kind of bent down, but you obviously can't do that here. It's got this front light, which I think is really nice, and I think this is supposed to represent the control part of it. As you can see at the front too, you've got the windscreen wipers, so almost every detail is here. They don't have doors, that's one of the details they don't have. I think it would have been just too difficult. You would have had to sacrifice too much for the shape on the lines of the panel to do that. This hose piece, in the movie it's much smaller and closer together, but I think it works really, really well here, just going up to, you know, service something on the roof, and we'll come to the roof separately. The other part here is just how they've done the wheels, which I think are really, really nice. They've got these pretty chunky wheels, then there's a sort of a hubcap piece, and then on top of the hubcap piece, you then have a silver stud. The same on all 4 wheels, and as you can see at the back here, that's actually covered partly by the panel, which is exactly as it is in the real car, and I think that's a really nice touch. This is just a very simple white 1x8 tile just on top, but I think it works well just to cover that and give the sense of space. So let's now go take a look at the roof. So here we have many, many different greebling effects, but actually they use exactly the same effects in the movie as well. I think this is actually pretty accurate to the version they use in the film. Big spotlights at the front, same at the back. These big would-be flashing lights, they're flashing blue. front and back. You then have some kind of cylinder in yellow here. Whatever this pole is, I don't think anyone knows. Probably the people who made the movie don't know either. Some kind of communications dish, something else on here that can be rotated round. This can move around if you need it to, I don't know why. And then on the far side here, you have this long green with studs. It's two pieces, or two or three pieces, I think, but they've pulled it together into one. Again, I don't know what it is in the movie, but here, they've captured it very nicely. And let's take a look at the other side. And here they just have this ladder that goes all the way on top. This can be moved. You can fold it up and fold it up if you needed to see inside. But in the movie it's normally down, and I think the presumption is the doors are here and here, and this is just a way of getting on to repair the equipment on top. Now the roof is removable, and I'll take that off now. One small problem I do have with the set is this roof is made of 3 different pieces, 2 kind of panel car pieces and one just straight up plate with plates on. But they're connected relatively loosely, so as you can see it kind of has a tendency to wobble. It's easy enough to fix it back in, but given that the studs are on these end pieces, when you take it off, has a tendency for these to come out, and you can see just a little bit misaligned. It's easy to fix, but they could have fixed it too with putting a single plate all along the bottom. I think that probably would have sacrificed the space in the middle. Let's take a look inside the car now. See, it's got a lot of space here at the back. That's supposed to be for equipment or for the ghost catching devices. You can see this printed 2x2 slope piece here to show a computer, and you can have somebody sitting in there with the computer and then showing you around at the front. Just a relatively simple empty space with a steering wheel. And one of the great things about this set, I think, is the way they've done these windows. These are all just attached just by these sort of spanner pieces going through studs like this one, a 1x1 stud with a hole in the middle so that they can get purchase. Then these hook pieces, they're all just attached to a single long line, and they just swivel down into place and they just touch against the sides here. And I think that just gets you the perfect inward angle, which again just helps provide a sense of curving around the whole of the vehicle. Both sides are done the same. And you can see you've got these small long cheese slope pieces here, just again to capture that sense of curves on the inside. Let's now take a look at the minifigures. This is designed on a custom stand, another printed piece here. And it's just got this black yellow repeating just to show this is an emergency service crew. They're standing on jumpers, so they're offset slightly so it can stand in the middle of this 2x2 long plate. Each of them has, I'll show you one in closer detail, but each of them has these identical proton packs on the back, including the sort of fire, their guns they shoot to capture the ghosts. And while each of those proton packs are identical, each of them from the front are very different. Here you can see them all slightly closer up. See on this side we have Peter, Egon, Ray and Winston. I think they've captured the hair really well on each of them. I think Winston's is probably the least true. I think his is just, he's got a very straight line to his hair, but the others, unkempt of Peter, the large curly hair of Egon, and the more kind of slicked back, sciencey type hair of Peter. So I think that's done really well. You can see 2 of them, Ray and Egon, have walkie-talkies, and Winston's holding this trap, which is just a very simple grill piece on a clip. Let's get rid of all of this paraphernalia so you can just see the minifigures by themselves. So here we are with all 4 minifigs with no equipment on. Each of their fronts is unique. You might be able to pick it up, but there's just some very subtle details. Apart from obviously each has their initials on them here. They also have, so Ray has this little utility belt packet on one side, Egon on the other, Peter doesn't have one at all, Winston on one side. The rest of their suits are basically identical. A little bit of colour you can see for Winston there of his chest. But there's just some very subtle markings, some lines just show they are done uniquely. I think that's a really nice touch. If we turn them round, you can see the backs are all identical other than the names that they've got on each of them. We've seen their main faces, but let's take a look at their alternate faces here. Their first set of faces I showed were all pretty happy and relaxed. These are much more, they've now facing something they really can't deal with so well. So they've all got a mix of shock and fear on their faces, wide eyes, open mouths, shock. I think these minifigures are really, they've put so much care and detail into capturing the faces and expressions in two different ways. I think it's really, really lovely. This is just a close-up of the Proton pack. You can see it's just built of G-slope, a grill piece. This long, twisty piece is actually a whip piece in black. I think normally before now it's been in brown. There's that brown 1x1 stud with a hole in it, and at the end I think it's a lightsaber handle which you can then detach. And if you detach it, you can then put it into the hand of one of your minifigures so that they can shoot. So that's it for my review of the LEGO Ghostbusters Ecto-1. I think it's a great set, particularly if you love the movie. I think it's a shame, a couple of elements, maybe they could have captured the curves a bit more. And I do think it's a shame you can't fit all the 4 minifigures in the car, but to make them all fit, well, you can just pack them in, I guess. You would have had to make the car much bigger, and this is already a pretty big vehicle. So I think for the parts count, for the scale, I think they've captured it wonderfully well. Particularly, the greebling on top here is wonderful. The curves along the sides are great. The wheels I love, and the minifigures are really amazing. It's a relatively expensive set for a pretty small car, but the piece count is good, and I think, like I said, I think it's you get it for the nostalgia reasons, and also just for the, I think the artistry of the build. It's solid, it's fun to play with, and it looks great. I'd love to hear what you think, so please let me know in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this video, please feel free to like it or subscribe to our channel, because more videos are coming soon.